Hi friends, today we are going to discuss about a topic, job work. What exactly is job work is defined in section 2 subsection 68 of the CGST Act, and the term job work has been defined in an exhaustive manner. It says job work means a treatment or a process done on goods belonging to another registered person. So the person who is making this treatment or process is called the job worker, and the person on whose goods this job worker is making this treatment or process, that person is called principal. Now we are going to discuss all the provisions relating to this job work as per CGST law. But you have to remember one thing, all the provisions that we are covering now under the CGST law, the same provisions are also provided for in the IGST Act by virtue of section 20 of the IGST Act. But we are going to discuss the provisions of the CGST Act. So let's start our discussion on the concept job work. Here, if you look at the screen, here we have a person who is the principal, and this principal is registered under the GST law. This principal, who is a registered person, he is getting the inputs from a supplier, and when he receives the inputs from the supplier, for acquiring those inputs, he is making the payment relating to the price and the tax to the supplier. So he has discharged his liability, he has paid the price and also the taxes to the supplier, and he has received the inputs. Now, having received these inputs, the principal is supplying these inputs to the job worker. And this is not a permanent transfer. He is supplying the goods to the job worker so that the job worker will make a treatment or a process on these goods, and he will return it back to the principal. So this transaction, where the principal is sending the goods to the job worker, this transaction is not treated as supply, and the principal can send the goods to the job worker without payment of any GST. Now a question arises, sir, the principal has acquired these goods from the supplier and he is sending the goods to the job worker for processing. Can the principal avail ITC with respect to the tax paid on inputs? You all know, in order to claim input tax credit, you have to satisfy the conditions which are specified in section 16 subsection 2. What are those conditions? Let's see. First one, the registered person who is claiming ITC, that is the principal in our case, should have a tax paying document. In this case, here the registered person or the principal is having an invoice. Second, the goods or services should have been received by the person. Yes, our principal has received the goods. Third, the supplier should have paid the GST to the government. Let us assume the supplier has paid this GST to the government, and the person should have filed his return as per section 39. Let us take here that compliance requirement is also met. Having satisfied all the conditions of section 16 subsection 2, the principal can claim ITC relating to the tax which is paid on inputs. But here there is an issue. The goods which are acquired by the principal are sent to the job worker for further processing with an intention of getting the goods back after the treatment or process is over. Sir, in this situation, can the principal claim ITC relating to the inputs? Section 19 of the CGST Act says, if the principal sends the goods to the job worker for further processing by following the procedure laid out in section 143, in such case definitely the principal can claim the ITC with respect to the tax paid on the inputs. Here, if you observe, the job worker is doing a treatment or a process on goods belonging to another person, and this activity the job worker is doing for a consideration. So definitely the activity which is done by the job worker is treated as supply as per section 7 of the CGST Act. Having understood that this is supply, now the question is, this supply, is it supply of goods or supply of services? We have discussed this point clearly in the first chapter, that is supply, when we covered schedule number 2. And schedule number 2 clearly says, whenever a person who is doing a treatment or a process on goods belonging to another person, this activity shall be treated as service only. So here the job worker is providing a supply of service to the principal. Now we have to understand one more important point. Sometimes what happens, the job worker uses some ancillary material while discharging his job work. While doing the job work, he uses some ancillary material. Let us take some example. Let us take the principal actually is in a footwear industry where he supplies handcrafted leather shoes. So the principal has purchased the leather and he has sent it to the job worker. So the job worker will prepare or make the shoes, and in this process the job worker is using lace, job worker is using dice, job worker uses some thread which is some ancillary material. So job worker here is doing two activities. One is he is doing a treatment or a process on the goods belonging to another person. At the same time he is also providing some ancillary material. So this becomes a composite supply. However, CBIC has clarified that even though job worker is providing some ancillary material, here the principal supply is job work. Therefore, even if the job worker is providing ancillary material while he is doing this job work, it will be treated as supply of service only. Sir, what happens after the job worker completes the process? Here we have to understand one important point. Once the job worker completes the treatment or processing on these goods, they have to be returned back to the principal within a prescribed time limit. As far as inputs are concerned, you have to return the goods back to the principal within a period of 1 year. And if at all it is capital goods, the job worker has to return the capital goods to the principal in a period of 3 years. Sir, is there any possibility of extension of this time limit? The answer is yes. This time limit can be extended by the commissioner. In case of inputs, there can be further extension of 1 year. In case of capital goods, there can be further extension of 2 more years. Earlier, this extension point was not there. The job worker had to return the inputs or capital goods within a period of 1 year or 3 years respectively. But having understood the concerns of the defense sector, because in case of defense sector there are certain job works which are in the form of hull construction or vessel fabrication or shipbuilding activities, and these activities usually take some 14 months to 16 months time limit. Keeping in mind these activities, government has given extension. So extension will be given by the commissioner only in certain situations if he feels that it is necessary. Otherwise, extension will not be available in all the cases. But sir, sometimes the principal also sends to the job worker, along with the inputs and capital goods, he will also send molds, dies, jigs, fixtures and tools. What about this? Within what time they should be returned back to the principal? Here the answer is there is no time limit for returning the articles in the form of molds, dies, jigs, fixtures and tools, etc. So it is important that once the job worker completes the treatment or process, the goods should be returned back to the principal. And once the goods are returned back to the principal, what will be the principal doing with the goods? The principal will supply the goods in the market. That supply, either it can be a domestic supply or it can be export. If it is a domestic supply, the principal will pay GST and he will make the supply. If it is export, you have to follow the provisions of section 16 of the IGST Act. That is, you have got two options. Option number one, you execute a bond or a letter of undertaking and you don't pay any GST. Or you can avail option number two, you pay the GST, then later you can apply for refund. Sometimes what happens? The principal gives instructions to the job worker that within this prescribed time limit, you please don't send the goods back to my office, don't return the goods. What you do, from your premises only, you can make a supply. That means principal wants to make a supply from the job worker's premises. Maybe the principal's customer is at the place where the job worker's premises are located, or it becomes easy to export the goods directly from the job worker's premises. In such case, you have got one more option. The goods need not be returned to the job worker, but within the time limit, the goods can be supplied by the principal from the job worker's premises. And that can be a domestic supply, you pay the GST and you make the supply, or it can be export, you can do the export from job worker's premises directly by following the provisions of section 16 of the IGST Act. But here one important point need to be taken into consideration. When you are making the supply through job worker's premises, if the job worker is registered under the GST law, in such case, you can directly make the supply from job worker's premises. But if the job worker is not registered under the GST law, in such case, the principal has to show the job worker's premises as his additional place of business, because we know that under GST law, we can make the supply only from the registered premises. Therefore, if the job worker is not registered under the GST law, the principal should show the job worker's premises as his additional place of business. Now, we will discuss another important aspect. Sir, you said that the goods must be returned to the principal's premises within a prescribed time limit. That is, in case of inputs, it is 1 year, and in case of capital goods, it is within a period of 3 years. But sir, from which date you have to count this time limit? You have to count the time limit of 1 year or 3 years, as the case may be, from the effective date. So what exactly is the effective date? We will discuss in two different scenarios. Let us take, in this case, scenario number 1. The principal is getting the goods from the supplier, and from principal's place of business, the goods are being sent to the job worker's premises. In this scenario number 1, the effective date shall be the date of goods being sent from the principal's place of business. That is, on the date the principal is sending the goods from his premises, that will be the effective date. But sometimes the principal gives an instruction to the supplier that the inputs should be directly sent to the job worker's premises. In such case, the supplier, instead of sending the inputs to the principal place of business, after taking instructions from the principal, he will directly send these inputs to the job worker's premises. This is called bill to ship to model. That means billing is done in the name of the principal, but shipping will be done to the job worker's premises. In this case, what will be the effective date? If at all goods are being sent directly to the job worker's premises by the supplier, in such case the effective date shall be the date of receipt of goods by the job worker. And why we are discussing about this effective date? It is because the time limit for returning the goods, whether it is 1 year or 3 years as the case may be, should be counted from this effective date only. Now an important question arises. Sir, you said once the job worker completes the treatment or processing, the principal should get back the goods within the prescribed time period, or he should make the supply of the goods from the job worker's premises only within the prescribed time limit. So, within the prescribed time limit, that is 1 year or 3 years as the case may be, either principal should get back the goods to his place, or from job worker's place of business, you have to supply that goods. What will happen if the principal does not get back the goods or supply the goods from the premises of the job worker within the prescribed time limit? Now let's see. First we will discuss the treatment in the hands of the principal. Do you remember that when principal has sent the goods to the job worker's premises, at that time I told you that this transaction should not be treated as supply and the principal should not pay GST. And government has given this benefit with an assumption that the principal will get back the goods within the prescribed time limit. But now you have violated that condition. So whatever transaction which was not treated as supply earlier, now that transaction will be treated as supply, and this will be with a retrospective effect. Let us take, you have sent the goods to the job worker for processing in the month of January 2019, and you all know that the inputs after processing, they have to be returned back within a period of 1 year. So you have to get back the goods in the month of January 2020. But in January 2020, you did not receive the goods from the job worker. Now the law says this transaction will be treated as supply with retrospective effect. That means this transaction is supply not with effect from January 20, but it will be treated as supply with effect from January 2019 only. But at that time you have not reported that as supply and you have not paid the GST. So reporting should be done now. Now you have to raise a tax invoice freshly. You have to declare this transaction as a supply in your GSTR1 and you have to pay the tax liability. But government is asking a question. Whatever tax liability that should have been discharged in January 2019, you are discharging the tax liability in January 2020. So we want interest. So the principal has to discharge this tax liability along with interest. Now we have to understand one important aspect. Earlier, when the principal sent the inputs to the job worker, this transaction was not treated as supply. But now you have violated the condition of section 143. This transaction is treated as supply and you have paid GST on it. So, when the job worker has received the goods, already it was a supply. A supply was completed. Now, when the job worker is returning the goods back to the principal, it will be again treated as supply in the hands of the job worker. If the job worker is a registered person and the job worker has to comply with all the provisions. That is, job worker has to raise an invoice, job worker has to declare the supply in his GSTR1, he has to pay the tax. But since GST was already paid on this supply, job worker can avail this GST as ITC in discharging the tax liability. Now we will discuss about the documentation in case of job work. I told you, when the principal sends the goods to the job worker, initially the transaction will not be treated as supply, that will not be subject to GST. Government gave you this benefit because you promised the government that you will bring back the goods within the prescribed time limit. Therefore, whenever you are sending the goods to the job worker for processing, you have to declare this transaction to the government. You have to file a form GST ITC 04, and this is a quarterly statement. Here you have to give all the details as to what goods are being sent to the job worker, what goods are being returned from the job worker, or what goods are sent from one job worker to another job worker. So the principal, every quarter he has to file GST ITC 04. Along with this, the principal should also issue a delivery challan, and this delivery challan should be issued in triplicate, that is 3 copies. First copy will go to the job worker, second copy will be given to the transporter, and third copy will be retained by the principal. Now a question arises, sir, the principal has already issued a delivery challan, is there any requirement to issue an e-way bill? The answer is absolutely yes. You have to comply with even the e-way bill requirements. You have to raise an e-way bill also. Now, the goods are being sent to the job worker. Job worker will complete the treatment or process, and he will either return it back to the principal or he will send it to another job worker. So when the job worker is returning the goods back to the principal or sending the goods to another job worker, the job worker should endorse the delivery challan which was sent to him by the principal. That delivery challan should be endorsed by the job worker, and he should send this endorsed delivery challan along with the goods. But sometimes what happens? Let us take an example. Principal has sent 1 lakh units of goods to the job worker for processing. The job worker has completed the processing and sending the goods not in one go, but he is sending the goods in lots. Let us take, he is sending 20,000 goods in the first lot, 20,000 goods in the second lot. Like this, he is sending the goods in 5 lots. Now in that case, every time you send the goods, what you have to do? You have to raise a new delivery challan. And this new delivery challan can be either prepared by the job worker himself or it can be prepared by the principal. Now, if the goods are sent to another job worker, the next job worker also will do some processing and return the goods back to the principal. He also will endorse the delivery challan which was given to him by the first job worker. Or if he is sending the goods in lots and not all the goods in one go, he has to issue a new delivery challan. Or if he is not issuing any delivery challan, in such case the delivery challan can be issued by the principal. This is about the documentation requirement. Another important aspect in job work, which is the waste material or scrap which is generated during job work. In our example, I told you that the principal is in a footwear industry and he supplies handcrafted shoes. So he has purchased some leather and he has sent the leather to the job worker. Job worker has cut the leather, he has done stitching and he has made shoes. In this process, what happens? There will be a lot of wastage or scrap. The leather pieces will be there. This wastage or scrap can be sold in the market. And when you are supplying this waste or scrap, it will be treated as supply of goods and again GST liability will arise. Now the question is, who will discharge this GST liability? CGST Act says this GST liability on supply of waste or scrap can be either paid by the principal or the job worker. But if job worker is an unregistered person, in such case, the GST liability should be discharged by the principal himself. Documentation. I told you, the principal every quarter has to file a form GST ITC 04. So just have a look at the GST ITC 04 form on the screen. As I already told you, this form has to be submitted every quarter. And I also told you that it has details relating to the goods sent to the job worker. You can see on the screen in point number 4, you have to fill out all the details of the inputs or capital goods which are sent to job worker. And under heading number 5, you have to give all the details relating to inputs, capital goods which are received from the job worker or sent out from the place of business of job worker. So you have to fill all these details in form GST ITC 04. So just have a look at this form. So this was about the concept of job work under the GST law.